Is it hard for you not to judge other people?
I've been judging other people my whole life.
Anyone can become a GM.
Anybody can become a GM except for Gotham Chess.
What has Levy done to you then?
It's too sad to talk about on the podcast.
Is Hikaru hard to handle? So then chess.com was so much better, right?
You should see some of the emails I've sent him. I've never said this publicly. FIDE has been...
Welcome everybody to yet another episode. I'm Women's Grandmaster Dina Bellingcat, and here with me, my lovely co-host Emily Plays Chess. And in today's episode, we got a very famous Grandmaster, never play F6, Ben Finegold. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, I thought I was the lovely co-host, but I guess I'm not.
The lovely guest.
Well, you
More
were
important.
You're lovely. That's the most important.
Okay, that is important.
Ben, how are you?
Good. I'm really happy to be here. I was excited to do the podcast when you guys asked me because I like to talk about chess stuff.
We actually were debating whether you were feeling like you were forced or you were genuinely excited.
Yeah, but you guys bribed me with vegan food, so that's the way to bribe me.
One of the things that we actually wanted to talk on is you mentioned you're vegan. How did that happen?
Well, when I was 16, I became a vegetarian, and I was a vegetarian for 33 years. Then, just as a New Year's resolution, I decided to become vegan. Because when I became vegetarian, it was because like I had some meat and it made me sick, and I was like, I'm not going to eat that anymore. And then at some point during my vegetarianism, I didn't think it was right to murder animals and eat them. So then I became a vegan, and I've been a vegan for over 6 years.
So that's purely from your love to animals?
Yeah, I was also a New Year's resolution. That was the important part. But yeah, so I have like a vegan wallet, a vegan belt, and, I try to buy things that are vegan now.
Oh, okay. So it's not just the diet. You're living the full.
Yeah, veganism isn't just a diet. It's a lifestyle where you don't try to buy products where they harmed animals.
Is it hard for you not to judge other people who do those sins?
I've been judging other people my whole life, so it's not a big deal.
I can only imagine.
I mean, everybody should be vegan, and they will be eventually, but it'll be way after I die.
We're not going to die, Ben.
Never? Yeah, that's going to suck at some point. Wait, you're not a vegan? Oh, wait, you went to a vegan restaurant.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed your food.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoyed their food.
But that's because it tasted like a normal food.
Mm-hmm. It is normal food.
Yeah, there's like substitutes for everything. It's just not readily available, so it's kind of inconvenient. But
yeah, it's funny. People don't realize that there's vegan alternatives for all food.
yeah,
And sometimes there's more than one, and it's confusing, like milk. Like there's cow's milk, which is milk. Then there's like 7 kinds of other milks that are not used to torture animals. Those are all fine. And sometimes I don't know which one to get. But my 2 favorites are soy milk and almond milk. Not that I know what milk tastes like, because I haven't had it in 40 years.
have you seen your audience more? Like, have you convinced some of
Some people said they became vegan because of me. So, yeah. I don't know if they're telling the truth, but, it's the internet, so you never know.
Right. Let's go back to early Ben Finegold. You came from a chess family, right? Your dad was a national master, and you often make jokes that you didn't have a choice getting into chess. Is this actually the case, or?
Not only was my dad a chess master, my brother's a chess master.
Right.
My mom knows how to play chess, but she hates it. So she didn't play it. She played in one tournament before I was born. She didn't like it. Funny story. I've played in hundreds of tournaments, and even though my mom played in one tournament, she had something happen I've never heard of, which is one of her opponents didn't like his position, so he did something unusual. He tied himself up.
What?
He tied his hands so he couldn't move because he didn't like his position. Then eventually he untied himself and he won the game.
He's talking about the chess pieces.
But yeah, that was... My mom told me that story. That's pretty funny that one of her opponents tied his hands up so he couldn't move. So I know coaches tell kids to sit on their hands because they're always moving too quickly.
So this was just a one-time hand tying, and then he untied and continued, or there was like between every...
No, I think it was just the one time. Yeah. one time only. Now
So that's what made her dislike chess.
that helped. But she lost all her games. So unlike me, when she lost all her games, she's like this. She just doesn't like playing. I started playing in tournaments when I was 6, and the first 2 or 3 years, I just me losing. And then my rating got a lot higher when I was 10, 11, and I started not losing all my games. So that was nice.
Were they kind of pushing you to get into it, or you sort of saw them doing this fun thing?
No, I wanted to play chess all the time. And I wanted to go to tournaments all the time. My dad didn't really coach me growing up, but we would play blitz chess in the house. So, so we sort of coaching.
Yeah.
So you were a prodigy. You were self-taught. You just watched like all the people play.
Unlike most people, I got better at chess by losing a lot. When I was 6, 7, 8, 9, nobody thought I was talented. And then when I was 12, people thought I was talented, but I think it's just because I played hundreds of tournament games. So, like, for example, I became a USCF master when I was 14. And if you want to become a life master, at those times, you had to play 300 games as a master. And I became a master at 14 and a life master at 15.
Oh God.
That's how many tournaments I played in.
300 games.
Outside chefs, or just every weekend?
As a teenager, no.
Did you go to school?
I went to public school, so it wasn't difficult.
Ben. Don't judge the society.
But that's what I do.
You became an IM at 20 and the GM at 40. What took you so long?
This is weird because this is hard to understand now. Many years ago when I was doing all that, if you wanted Grandmaster norms, you had to go to Europe. Not the case now. Now you can get a norm in every tournament in the U.S., but they didn't have that. They didn't have the Charlotte Chess Center and the St. Louis Chess Club and these big tournaments they have now around the country with huge prizes. They make them norm tournaments. They make them 9 rounds. But in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, a lot of tournaments were 6 rounds or 7 rounds because people couldn't leave work for 5 days. So you couldn't get a GM norm. But if you went to Europe, they would have round robins or Swiss tournaments that were 9 rounds and GM norms. So most of the American players who were grandmasters got their norms in Europe. And I did the opposite. I lived in Europe from 88 to 92. And I got all my IM norms. Then I moved back to the U.S., and I got GM norms of the U.S. So I did the opposite of everybody else. But since there weren't a lot of GM norm tournaments, and the ones that I did play in, which were rare, I didn't get GM norms. My rating was quite high, and I was GM strength, but I didn't have the norms.
When did you get the 2500 rating?
In my early 20s. I remember when I was 20, and I became an IM, I was 2490.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah, basically. Yeah.
I think you were 2600 USCF, right?
My highest USCF was 2663.
Oh God.
Yeah, now it's not.
They had like referred to you as the strongest IM, right? It was like a running joke, kind of.
I was called that, but I don't believe that. But I was strong for an IM.
Right.
Yeah.
But was it, so when you got the IM title, was your next quest, like, were you actively pursuing the GM title, or you just kind of?
No, I never did that. And the way I got the GM title was lucky. I got invited to these GM norm tournaments, which was rare, like back to back, and I got a norm in one of them.
Like Spice Cup, no?
Yeah, my last norm was at the Spice Cup, and it was a 9-round, 10-player round robin. And after 8 rounds, I had the norm.
Oh God.
So of course, I lost in the last round.
Because no motivation.
But yeah, exactly.
And that was organized by Susan Polgar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I always tell everybody I got my 3 norms from 3 different organizers. I got a norm with, unfortunately passed away, Savan Moradian, and he had GM norm and IM norm tournaments in Chicago all the time. And I got a norm in one of those tournaments. And then I got a norm, my first norm was at the World Open in 2002. That's Goichberg tournament. He has norm tournaments. And then Susan Polgar, I got my 3rd norm. So I didn't, And it's funny, one of my most famous students, Matt Larson, he's an IM. When I first started teaching him, he was under 1,000. And so that gives you something to, and he got all 3 of his norms in 3 consecutive Chicago Opens, which is weird to get. He does well in the Chicago Open.
I guess.
So, but he got 3 norms and he's an IM. Yeah. Now he's like a fellowship researcher at Princeton in complicated math.
Damn, he's got a real job.
Yes. Yeah. He went to Yale, and then he went to Stanford, and then now he's at Princeton.
Wow.
And when he got into Yale, they asked me to write a letter of recommendation for him, which I thought was weird. Like, Yale doesn't care about that. But he got into Yale, so.
Guess it was a good letter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ben, you became GM at 40. Does that mean that anyone can become a GM as an adult improver?
Anybody can become a GM except for Gotham Chess. That's the only exception. It's hard to become a GM because there's 7 billion people in the world and there's less than 2,000 GMs. Becoming a GM shouldn't be your first goal. You want to have incremental goals as a chess player and reach those goals, ones that you can reach. And then, if you study all the time and don't work and have your parents pay for lessons and you get lucky and you get better quickly, then you have good chances to improve, pretty quickly. When I was a kid, kids were not good at chess, which is hard to understand now. But like if you were 2000 and you were a kid, they were like, wow, how are you 2000? Now if you're 2000 and you're a kid, they're like, get out. Yeah, 2000, terrible. And when I play in tournaments, most of my opponents are kids. I've played twice in Charlotte since I'm retired, and I played 1 adult. And I played 11 games. And 70s, 80s, and 90s, when I was getting better at chess, play no kids. There's no kids in the tournament. Kids playing kids tournaments, and they weren't very good. And so I stood out when I was between like 12 and 16 as one of the top juniors. Now, if I took my ratings when I was 12 to 16 and was now like that, nobody would know who I am. I would never play in the U.S. Junior Championship. Nobody would think I was a talented junior. And at that time, I played in 5 of them. So I was one of the top juniors in the country with a rating of like 2,400 USCF. Now, 2,700 USCF juniors. And it's ridiculous. So the kids are all good now. And when I was a kid, kids weren't good, which was good for me because I got better and most kids just didn't play as much as me because they didn't have a national master for a dad who went to tournaments every weekend and played chess all the time.
And the brother to spare.
Yeah, my brother played chess too, and my son later became a master also. I've been married 3 times. Currently married to my wife for over 8 years. And my first wife was a WIM who played in the Olympiad for the U.S. and played in U.S. Women's Championships. My second wife was unrated in U.S. chess when I met her, and she played her first tournament at the World Open. And she got to 1,800, and she actually played in the U.S. Championship, which is very strange. I mean, I don't mean U.S. Women's Championship. She played in the U.S. Championship, and she was 1,800.
What?
Confusing the audience. Well, they don't do this anymore, and my second wife is one of the reasons why. They had tournaments, like the big tournaments, like National Open, World Open, Chicago Open. And if you paid a fee before the tournament, that you were trying to qualify for the U.S. Championship. She paid the fee in one tournament in Vegas, and almost nobody paid the fee to do it. So sort of like by default, she like got in and there was a big argument about it. The U.S. Chess Federation said, we don't want her to play in the U.S. Championship. And the organizer said, you can't have this thing where they pay a fee to play, and then she gets in and you say no, like you can't do that. So she played, and she got the expected score of 0 out of 9. But she was winning a couple of games. But one thing you don't know, in the U.S. Women's Championship occasionally was one tournament, confusing the audience. So you'd have like 30 men and like 12 women, and they're in the same tournament. Then when the tournament's over, they're like, oh, you're the highest scoring woman. You win.
They do that right now in Israel every 2 years.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they invited me
And
for that.
they did this a few times. They don't do it now. My wife was playing other women who were in the U.S. Women's Championship, but it was the same tournament. So she played some people who were like 2,200, but still lost. But she was winning a couple of games. Some people got mad at her because I told her not to resign because she likes to resign. So she got mated all 9 games. She played. She. See, most wives don't listen to me, but she's, and they were like.
But this one was a good one, right?
So one of her opponents.
This one was behaving.
Yeah, one of her opponents said, "Why did you play to mate?" And she said, "My husband told me I'm not allowed to resign." She said, "Oh, okay."
Good job. Listen to your husbands.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You mentioned that anyone can become a grandmaster except Gotham Chess.
Yeah, I like to give Levy shit.
Why? What has Levy done to you, Ben?
It's too sad to talk about on the podcast.
Okay.
No, he hasn't. Levy hasn't done anything to me. I like to talk shit about people, and he's pretty famous. So if I talk shit about somebody nobody's ever heard of, or who nobody cares.
I like that.
Yeah.
But let's just try to unveil that. Why do you think Levy is not going to become a grandmaster?
Levy is what I call a chess personality. He's not a chess player. So he's not somebody who's like 12 years old, who gains 200 rating points a year or 300. He's in his late 20s. And the main reason there's 2 reasons he can't become a grandmaster. One is he has no grandmaster norms. And there's one that's even more important. That actually doesn't matter. His rating is really low. And if you're an IM and you're rated between like 2450 and 2500, if you get grandmaster norms, you'll get to 2500. Levy's rating, when I checked like a year or two ago, is like 2330, his FIDE rating. And to get the GM title, he would have to gain over 150 rating points in his late 20s, which is basically unheard of. I mean, you don't just get a lot better in your late 20s.
Well, he's turning 30 this year.
Yeah.
But he was also 2400 previously, so his coefficient is only 10 instead of like 20, so it's even harder to
Right, it's even more difficult. And in my opinion, when Levy was not super famous, he was playing more tournaments and he was a better player. And now he has to spend 90% of his time being super famous. So he doesn't have time to like improve his chess and play in tournaments because he's streaming and he's making YouTube videos and he's traveling all over the world doing signings and stuff. So he has other stuff to do, which won't necessarily help him become a GM. I think occasionally he loses interest. He's like, I'm going to become a GM, rawr. And then he plays in a couple of tournaments. Then he like takes 6 months off and he's not playing in tournaments anymore because he gets frustrated.
Well, he has a rating of a GM on chess.com. Like he holds 2800, which is very impressive. What's your chess.com rating, Ben?
My highest chess.com blitz rating was 2830. And now I'm trying to get to 2850, but I give up. But right now it's like 2680 because I lose all my games on my stream.
Levy's higher rated than you on chess.com. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's like bullshit?
It's a blitz rating. He's probably better online blitz than I am.
Online blitz is not a representation of your chess skill.
Yeah, and also Levy's probably better than me, but I'm not GM strength anymore. In my prime, way better than Levy is now, but now very suspicious. Yeah, my peak FIDE rating was 2563. So that's pretty good rating. Now my FIDE rating is not.
You did make a public video that's still discoverable in the interwebs about how challenging Levy to a game.
Any match.
Yeah. Any time control, blindfold, simul.
I think somebody tricked me. They said on Levy's stream he's looking for content and doing something.
Oh, yeah. Like, he challenged Pia Kremling. That's what.
Right. And I'm like, that's good content playing me because people want to see that. I message him on Twitter and I make these videos like, let's play. And there's never any response. So I think I'm not famous enough for him to play.
Do you think
popular enough?
Do you think he chickened out?
No, if he's going to do something for content, then he wants, a lot of views and, I don't think he cares about playing me. But yeah, now that Levy's in Charlotte and I live in Atlanta, we could play in real life.
Yeah, we could organize it.
Yeah.
Right here at the Charlotte Chess Center. Shout out to the Charlotte Chess Center.
And like, you know, years ago I'd be a big favorite and now I'm probably an underdog. So the truth hurts.
Oh, Hans did say he would make Levy a grandmaster. Mm-hmm. Do you think Hans is doing that for clickbait?
Yes.
That's not a good thing when then replies in one word.
I know, that's why I did that.
Yeah.
For effect. Hans said
yeah.
$100,000. I want $100,000. Yeah, you can't just make somebody a GM.
Just because you're
And it's sort of like a Trumpism. Trump says, I'll end the war in one day. You know, it's just like Hans just says nonsense. And, you know, it goes viral.
Speaking of Hans.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Hans, he became a true bad boy of chess, something that chess needs. Isn't that like the drama we all been kind of waiting for?
It doesn't hurt my channel. One thing I try to explain to the internet people, if you can call them people, is a lot of chess players that are trash talking on the internet, we've known each other since before we were streaming and making YouTube videos. And people on the internet have trouble understanding that. They just know people from the internet. They don't know. Never met anybody. So, like, I've known Hans since he was like 11 or 12. And, you know, as a kid, he was, you know, I mean, you could see how he is now. He was even worse as a kid. So, I mean, I taught a chess camp in St. Louis where he was one of the participants. It was for strong 2,200, 2,300 kids who were young. And we had a meeting one day about whether we should kick him out of the camp or not. I've never said this publicly, or maybe I have, so it'd be a scoop for you guys. But Matt Larson, my student, who's like, he's older than Hans, but he was actually at a chess camp with Hans when Hans was a kid, probably like 11 or 12. And he said they would show puzzles on the board, and Hans would have his phone under the table solving them. So, and he said Hans did that like every puzzle. He would have like be cheating, you know. So cheating is in his blood. But having said that, I don't think Hans cheated against Magnus Carlsen, and I doubt that Hans has ever cheated over the board. However, his cheating on the internet, I'm sure, is more widespread than he would admit. And Chess.com agrees with that.
Well, that was the reason Chess.com took Magnus' side in the conflict, where you actually defended Hans.
Right, because Hans cheated online, but Magnus was claiming that Hans cheated against him when they played in the Sinquefield Cup. I don't know anybody who thinks Hans cheated in the Sinquefield Cup, so it's hard for me to believe. Also, Hans was a last-minute replacement that tournament. He didn't have time to prepare that tournament. I don't know what Magnus thinks now. I think he just doesn't know. But he's suspected that Hans was cheating. Then Magnus's behavior was strange, like leaving the tournament. The tournament's got nothing to do with it. Why are you messing up the tournament because one guy cheated against you? Just complain to the arbiters and the organizers and then play the rest of the tournament. You're not going to play him anymore. So that was weird. And then, of course, a few months later, he was paired with Hans at an online tournament, and he forfeited on move 2 or move 1, whatever it was. So that was just strange behavior. But yeah, I don't think Magnus likes Hans.
What inspired you to, after retiring from competitive chess, to go back to it?
Levy kept saying, I'm going to become a GM. I'm road to GM. And I'm like, if Levy thinks he can become a GM, I better start playing chess again because chess must be easy. And that was probably a mistake on my part. Man, 2.5 years since I retired, I got worse. My wife says it's not my age. It's the fact that I don't study chess anymore. So
she's right. Always listen to your wife.
Karen got good at poker by studying a lot. And, she cashes in a lot of tournaments and she plays online a lot.
And she streams from your channel.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's our channel. It's Ben and Karen. And don't forget it. Yeah. And then every year we go to the World Series of Poker for like 10 days to 2 weeks, and she plays in tournaments everywhere. So that's a fun vacation
especially when she wins.
Yeah, and she's cashed in some tournaments.
Is she the breadwinner now?
It depends. Like some bread is vegan, and some bread isn't.
Some bread is vegetarian.
So right, some's vegetarian. I think all bread's vegetarian, but some bread's vegan. And so I'm the vegan breadwinner, and she's the vegetarian. And she is a vegetarian. She became a vegetarian about 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, wow. So for a good part of your marriage and time together, you were vegan and she wasn't. So how was that working? Like, was she still just kind of accommodating? Was she eating vegan to accommodate you, or were you guys?
When she ate everything, she would often eat vegan or vegetarian because she just didn't, it wasn't like I have to have meat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I wasn't eating a lot of meat. But yeah, she stopped eating meat altogether, but she still has dairy.
Okay.
And actually, the biggest thing that's happened since we've been married is she was a huge coffee drinker. Not like Dina, who gets 2 coffees in one meal, then has to get one to go. Not like that. But
At like 8 p.m. that night.
But yeah, she was a big coffee drinker, and then she just said, "It gives me headaches," and she stopped. So she hasn't. I mean, Karen doesn't drink coffee anymore,
Are you proud of her?
which is I mean, it's
What's wrong with coffee then?
nothing, but it gives her a headache.
Oh.
Caffeine.
Because I thought maybe like all the plantations and stuff and the labor on that.
No, we don't care about that.
You actually did meet Karen here in Charlotte.
I met her in St. Louis.
Oh.
Yeah. Her older son was at a math camp at Washington University, and her younger son played chess. And she was like, "I wonder if there's a chess club in St. Louis." And then it's like 3 miles from Washington University. So she came every day. They had a chess camp. That's funny. They had a chess camp while she was there, so her kid could go to the chess camp. And then I met them there. And one of the very important rules at the St. Louis Chess Club is always date the customers. So I didn't want to, but you have to. So
Wait, does that apply to Yasser Seiravan as well?
I'm not sure what the rules are now because I haven't been there in years. But
Okay.
yeah, Yasser was married, so he probably wasn't dating the customers. Anyway, who knows? We had one of St. Louis's most famous employees, Mike Kummer. He babysat for us while we went to the movies and such. And then I would drive down to Atlanta a lot. She would drive to St. Louis. Then when I was here working in Charlotte, she would come to Charlotte for like a weekend and then go back. And then at some point, I asked her to marry me, and then she was going to move to St. Louis and buy a house, but she had her kids, and she has an ex-husband who lives in the Atlanta area, and you can't like take the kids hundreds of miles away. So I just moved to Atlanta because that made more sense.
You did that for love.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's funny is when I play chess, I travel a lot, and I always think of what are the famous cities in the U.S. I haven't been to? And the two there's one now, but the two at the time were Atlanta. I'd never played chess in Atlanta, and I've driven through Atlanta going to Florida, but like, hi Atlanta, and Denver. It's weird that I live in Atlanta because I'd never been to Atlanta, and then I moved there in my late 40s, and now I've been there for 9 years.
What about the 51st state?
Is that Greenland? Oh, it's Canada. I've played chess in Canada because, as you know, being a great geographer, I grew up in Detroit, and it's actually next to Canada. And here's something you'll find funny and confusing. If you're in Detroit and you want to go to Canada, you go south. Confusing the audience. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of Michigan is north of Canada because Michigan goes up and then.
Oh, yeah. And okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You're still playing. That's why you're here in JLO. You're going to be playing in the Alto this weekend. And apparently most of your opponents are children. So do you feel like.
Except for Aldo, because it's
except
at least 21. But go on the other question.
Up until you mentioned that up until this point, you're often playing kids. Do you feel like, I imagine you feel like you're the underdog sitting down at the board. And I guess I'm kind of curious how.
Yeah, my rating is higher, but I'm not super confident like I used to be when my rating was higher. Before, when you had adult-only tournaments, I was like, so. But now I'm like, yeah, adult-only tournaments. Because, And it's funny, like my students go to tournaments, and I have a student who's like a friend who's like 2000, and he was like, yeah, my opponent was 11, and my opponent was 12, and my opponent was 9, and so forth. So, and this is like in the expert section. Right. So I was like, yeah, I know what that's like.
Yeah. What is the impact on your psychology of playing chess when you are not at your peak and you're still going to play at these competitive tournaments? And
I wonder why I came back. I mean, it just coming back to donate rating points.
Well, you had a strong point to prove to a certain YouTuber.
It was very important. Yeah, that was.
It was a matter of principle.
If there was somebody in the chess center now who like hasn't played chess in a while, is thinking of coming back, don't do it. Run. Don't do it. Yeah.
Speaking of all these people at the chess center, we have certain people who are about, let's say, 1800 or 2000, and they're adults, and they believe that they can get a grandmaster title. Mm-hmm. What would be your advice to them?
Thinking is not their strong suit. So, yeah, you again, you shouldn't have these lofty goals that you're not going to achieve. If you're 1800, you should try to get to 2000. 2000, you should try to get to 2200, and you might achieve those goals. But adults just don't get 700 points better because they want to.
Let's say for my school, I have people coming, they're 1500 or they're 1200, and their goal is to become sometimes a grandmaster, sometimes a title player. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're delusional?
Yes. Most people are delusional. That helps. Then you can go on with your life if you're delusional. If you're not, and you're like, no, this is what life is, then you're terrible. So I think it's good to be a little bit delusional.
Do you think if you were delusional, you would score better against the kids?
Ooh, maybe. Yeah, I always tell Karen, like, I'm terrible, and I'm no good anymore. And she's like, no.
Because she is, as you said, like an adult diploma in poker, mm-hmm. and she's doing pretty well.
And she got better at chess. She was, when she took her youngest son to tournaments, she was like, why am I sitting here? Why don't I just play? And so she started playing in tournaments, and she got to a rating of over 1400, just, playing chess and studying. And she was in her 50s at the time. So she went from like never playing in a tournament to becoming better than most people. And she's played at the Charlotte Chess Center, but not this one, the original one, before you were born.
I like when he says that. Makes me feel young. We mentioned Hans. He's now friends with the certain grandmaster of your age, a little bit younger, mm-hmm. former world champion, right behind you. Mm-hmm. Okay, not that one, but starts with the same name, Vladimir Kramnik, mm-hmm. and his fight against cheating. Do you think he's doing the right thing?
I don't know why he cares about cheating online. People cheat online, they get caught or they don't get caught. He came to the conclusion that everybody's cheating, and so that ruins his argument a little bit when he just accuses everybody, because it's just silly. And if you asked me to name 3 people who aren't cheating online, like guaranteed, okay, he's accused 2 of those people of cheating. Of the 3 people that I know aren't cheating online, he's accused 2 of them. And I'm like, those are the guys I know aren't cheating.
Is Mr.
2 are Hikaru and Danya.
Yeah.
And the 3rd one's Carlsen. Those 3 guys aren't cheating online. They're not using engines to help them play. And he hasn't accused Carlsen yet. Once he accuses Carlsen, then he's in trouble. And so he hasn't gone that far yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if he accuses Carlsen, because he accused everybody. So yeah, he's obviously lost his mind. Karen doesn't laugh at tweets very much, but I tweeted that you've lost your mind. And I'm the only person that tells Kramnik he's insane who he doesn't block. And I said, he hasn't blocked me because I'm a grandmaster. And he said, no, I haven't blocked you because you haven't made it personal. And I'm like, what? I've made it more personal, name? Okay, anyway, I said, you've lost your mind. And his response was, at least I have a mind. And my wife thought that was really funny, so she laughed at that.
Approved, by the way.
But yeah, I used to complain to Kramnik a lot about his crazy tweets. And then I said, well, I'm done, because he just keeps tweeting everybody's cheating. So that's, And obviously, if 3 people are cheating out of 100, and you accuse 90 of them, and then, then the 3 people get caught, you're like, see, I said that guy cheated. Well, you said 87 other people cheated and they didn't. You say everybody cheated. So it's just, I mean, he's gone overboard.
What about his eternal battle against the chess mafia?
The chess mafia will never defeat them. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. Although I like the term chess mafia.
Well, it's chess.com, USCF, maybe St. Louis.
I mean, I wouldn't put U.S. chess as chess mafia. It's not organized enough to be.
Well, that's what Hans says, because they're all like against him, banning him from tournaments. And Vladimir is now Hans' bodyguard.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it, yeah. Yeah, they're like that, son. Yeah.
And Hans never cheated.
I don't think Hans has cheated over the board.
That you mentioned.
Definitely cheated online, which again, a lot of people cheat online. And I've never been accused of cheating online because people watch my games and they're like, oh, terrible. My goal in chess online is to play in Title Tuesday, get paired with Kramnik, beat Kramnik, get accused of cheating. That's the goal. And I've never gotten paired with Kramnik. And if I did, I'd probably lose. So that I can't fulfill my prophecy here. But I want to get accused of cheating because if somebody accuses you of cheating, that means you must have played really well.
Yeah.
And I had a student in St. Louis, who I won't mention, and she was accused of cheating online. And I know she wasn't. And then at some point, people issued apologies saying, okay, she didn't cheat, sorry. But I was like, no, it's good. People think you're cheating because you're playing so well. And she was like, yeah, I know. But most people don't like to be accused of cheating. I want to be accused of cheating, but I never am. So I'm like, I never play good enough to cheat. And the best player I've beaten online is Mamedyarov. Nobody said anything because the engine hates all my moves, which I gave a lecture on yesterday.
Yeah.
My moves are all terrible. So I do the opposite of cheating. I ask the engine what the right move is, then I make some terrible move.
Perhaps just concluding all that topic, just maybe your take on their friendship. Like Vladimir is fighting against cheating, and Hans is a former cheater, cheater in
remission, right?
In remission,
right?
Yeah. So how does that? What's the harmony there?
I think they're both outcasts. So I think people don't either like or agree with stuff that they do or say, or they're very engaging with their bad boy image and against the people who were in power. So they came together to join forces. Also, Kramnik was also banned for cheating.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Kramnik was playing on somebody else's account.
Oh yeah,
He said, yeah, we have the same rating, so that's fine.
And we play the same, and we play different openings.
Yeah, and they're like, you can't do that. So,
but he was doing that to test other cheaters.
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Hans withdrew recently from the freestyle event. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you're following that.
I don't know why he withdrew, and then
he disappeared.
Yeah,
and showed up back at Grand Prix Open.
And I posited on my stream that maybe it's a family issue or something. Could be something we don't know about.
Yeah,
but it could be crazy like Fox News. Who knows? So it could be like crazy for a couple of weeks. It could be he had a family emergency. I don't know. He doesn't talk about it. So.
But have you been watching those freestyle events?
I know the results, but I'm not like watching the games because I'm not a freestyle person. I'm not. That's not. I just like regular chess. I don't like variants. So I'm not. It's just very confusing to me in the opening, and I'm not. I'm interested in regular chess. So I'm not. I'm not the freestyle chess kind of guy. I think, as we discussed earlier, I think a lot of club players and class players don't have any interest in freestyle chess. And it seems like a lot of it is a money grab for the top players, good prizes in the tournaments. And the other thing I've noticed, which is a recent phenomenon, because before you were born, there were slow chess tournaments, and that was it. If you played in a blitz tournament or a bullet tournament or a rapid tournament, nobody cared. And there was no prizes. And now most tournaments are rapid and blitz with huge prizes. And the reason the top players like that is it's quick. And a lot of the top players like to protect their rating. So if you're number 5 in the world and then you have a couple of bad tournaments and you're number 20 in the world, that can ruin your invitations and also make you feel bad. So when they play in these rapid and blitz and online and freestyle chess, their rating is not affected. So they like that too. So the fact that there's a lot of money in online blitz and rapid, over the board blitz and rapid, freestyle chess, the players don't have to risk their rating and they get to make a lot of money in a kind of chess that wasn't possible 30, 40, 50 years ago. They just didn't have that. You played slow chess and that was it. If your rating went down, it went down.
Do you think freestyle is the future of chess?
I don't think so. I think it's just a money grab for the top players. I don't think most players like under 2,200 care about freestyle chess for themselves. They're having enough trouble playing chess. So they're just like, I got to get good at chess. I didn't study openings and get my Chessable courses so then I could play freestyle chess and then not know what's going on. So it doesn't help your regular chess very much. It's very confusing. And I don't think it's going to catch on with lower rated players. But I think as long as the financial incentive is there, they're going to have these tournaments for the top players because they seem to like not risking their rating and making a lot of money playing a new kind of chess.
And you don't blame them.
No, that's, you try to make money. That's life.
Speaking of making money in chess, it seems like there are two major institutions these days. One is the number one website, chess.com, also created the empire of chess YouTubers and content creators, including all of us, I believe, here in this room, all the people in this giant room. And there is another institution, the governing body of chess, also known as FIDE. Those two organizations are not necessarily close to your heart.
My wife is close to my heart.
You have had some opinions on the things that have been done in the chess world, and I certainly know you hold to your standards, which sometimes may be in controversy with.
Yeah, a lot of times FIDE or chess.com does some dumb shit. That happens. And I call them out when they do. It's weird that chess.com has so much power over the chess world. It's just a chess site. And they have a lot of money. They have, they bought Chessable. They have Magnus, and they're almost my employer because I do content for them and I do Chessable content. They're very helpful in growing my channel and helping me make money. But sometimes they go overboard and they make pronouncements that are not really in their purview. They're a chess site. So FIDE has been mismanaged for basically since I've been alive. So
before I was born.
Yeah, people running FIDE don't necessarily do the best job. So there's a lot to complain about, and people do complain, and regimes change. But for the most part, financially, for the best players in the world, they're making bank. So I think most people don't complain as much as like I would about what FIDE or chess.com does that's not necessarily helpful to the chess player. And one thing I'll just mention, because there's a lot of things I could say, but like when FIDE has a terrible problem with women's chess.
Do they?
When there's a women's world championship, it's like, okay, it's tomorrow. And we're not going to have any publicity about it. So you just figure it out yourself. And a lot of times FIDE does stuff at the last minute, like getting sponsors for big international tournaments, world championships. It's always, most of the time, when they have the World Blitz and Rapid at the end of the year, it's like, okay, it's in 2 days. We got the site. And I'm like, you got to tell people months in advance. And I had my own personal thing with FIDE at the last World Blitz, which you attended and played in the...
And you were there too. And that wasn't there.
No, I wasn't there.
You were not. Oh, you did not get a wild card.
I did. That's a complicated answer.
Okay.
So I did it and I did. I asked for a wild card and no answer. And then about 4 weeks before the tournament, they're like, thanks for asking, but no, you can't have a wild card. I'm like, all right. Then 2 days before the event, they sent me an email saying, okay, we'll give you a wild card now. Like, let us know by tonight if you're playing. And I'm like, what? So Karen told me to write a nice response instead of what I wanted to write. Like, thank you for the invitation, but it's too late for me, and I can't.
Well, they probably someone withdrew, so they got extra spots. Because I also think initially they were supposed to do everything in one room, and that was the reason why there were restrictions on players. But then eventually they got 2 spaces, and everybody had it up.
Again, it's haphazard organization. These things shouldn't happen. If FIDE was run by the Charlotte Chess Center, it would be streamlined. Everything would be good. There'd be enough arbiters. There wouldn't be these incompetent arbiters that FIDE hires for all their events. And everything would be great. But with FIDE running it, it's like, oh, we don't know what room we have. And, okay, you can play. Let us know in a couple hours. Like what? So, because I would have played if they had actually, like obviously 2 days before the event, I can't go to New York. And I had a big problem with FIDE at the World Junior Championship in India. I'm not going back to India. They held it at a very poor hotel. I was a coach for Ray Robson. It was 2011. And conditions were horrible. Organization was horrible. They jack up the prices for the Westerners, which is common in FIDE tournaments that used to be held in Eastern Europe. FIDE would make a deal with the hotel and jack up the prices and get their their under the table money. So very suspicious organization, and unfortunately, there's not much you can do because there's FIDE and that's it. Like if you want to become a grandmaster in IM, WGM, WIM, FIDE gives out the titles, and they have the tournaments. Occasionally, they get good sponsors, and so if things aren't organized the way that I'd like them to be, there's no competition. So there's going to be some, not necessarily legal stuff they're doing because they have all the power. They make the rules and they break them, and then there's nothing you can do about it.
So then Chess.com was so much better, right?
Chess.com financially is very good for me, and FIDE did nothing for me. So I've never gotten any money from FIDE or anything. They never did anything on my behalf. I did get the IM and GM titles, but okay, I had to get norms and stuff and get a high rating. But yeah, like Chess.com, and I insult and complain about them a lot. And Danny has a pretty high tolerance for saying bad stuff about him because he hears it a lot.
You think he will not be offended if he were ever to come across this podcast?
No, you should see some of the emails I've sent him. I said this before in the interview. I've known Danny Wrench.
Before I was born.
Maybe. I mean, like, I've known Danny Wrench forever. So, and I always consider him a friend. And, sometimes when friends do business, it doesn't work out so well. And I'm a small fish in a big pond with Danny because he has to deal with Hikaru all the time. So I feel bad for Danny. Because, a lot of what he has to deal with is Hikaru. And there's a lot of that.
Is Hikaru hard to handle?
Okay, so here's juicy for the podcast. I was in Toronto with the candidates, and I saw Tusa.
She's an angel.
VIP room. Well, maybe you'll change your mind about that. And I said, how long have you and Hikaru been married? And her answer was, a long time. Man, the truth hurts.
Well, that doesn't
she was probably kidding, but yeah. Maybe she just didn't want to talk to me. That's probably the most likely.
Well, maybe she means that they were, well, first of all, there's nothing bad about it. They didn't want to go public, and I totally actually respect that because as both like public figures, they don't want to draw too much eyeballs.
No, Tusa seems really nice.
I think she's a perfect match for him because she's like everything he's not.
Yeah, and Hikaru and I are like frenemies, so,
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, me and Hikaru are like that. I have known Hikaru since before you were born.
Okay.
Well, maybe not. I think I met him when he was 8.
So Danny has to deal with Hikaru, and therefore you understand when chess.com does something that she
He
don't
has a
approve.
lot of crap to deal with.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I give him crap, that's just, like, one more thing on his plate. But he doesn't care about me so much. So if I just start talking bad about Danny on the podcast, he's like, whatever. But if Hikaru talks bad about him, then he has to respond.
We can't talk about governing bodies of chess without talking about back in 2023 how you renounced your U.S. chess number or membership to make a statement against the leadership. Maybe for those who aren't familiar, do you want to give some backstory on that?
Just one thing, the way Jen Shahade was treated by first the St. Louis Chess Club, then by the U.S. Chess Federation, then crazy Facebook or Twitter posts by the U.S. chess president. And I've known Jen Shahade.
Before I was born.
Yeah, that's true. The way the USCF treated and the fact that I wasn't playing chess anymore in tournaments, I didn't see a reason to be a member anymore or an organization that would treat somebody who works for them like that. And again, FIDE and U.S. Chess Federation, have a problem with women. They don't do enough to support women's chess, and basically, if you were a strong woman in the U.S. before you were born, no, there's no money, zero money, $0. And basically, St. Louis took up the slack by having the U.S. Women's Championship and the America Cup for women, and they helped support the women's team going to the Olympiad, and U.S. Chess and FIDE need to do nothing.
Now the next woman to become a grandmaster is going to get a check of
$100,000.
Yeah.
I think it's a trick. When the next woman becomes a grandmaster, they're going to give them the candy bar. Here's $100,000. Yeah, I think it's a trick.
Damn.
Okay, maybe not. No, and in fact, they gave Irina the $100,000 because she was already a grandmaster. So, man, that was good. No, but you wouldn't believe me if I told you what the prizes were in the U.S. Women's Championship before St. Louis.
Tell us.
Like $500 first. Yeah. In fact, U.S. Championship was like that before St. Louis. And a lot of the top players didn't play in U.S. Championships because make more money giving chess lessons. So it cost them money to play in U.S. Championship. They didn't necessarily pay your lodging and hotel either. So 99% of money for American grandmasters and the top women players is from St. Louis. And U.S. Chess just never has done anything to financially help the top women players or the top men. And as a consequence, their treatment of Jen Shahade was over the limit for me. Now, the guy who's the current U.S. chess president, I like him. He organized a tournament in Florida that I played in, and he was really nice to me, and he's a good organizer. And so when he became the president, I decided, okay, I've complained enough about the U.S. Chess Federation. I'll come back. And that was before my comeback. I wasn't I'm coming back into chess. I have to get my membership. I did that much later. I wasn't planning on coming back into chess.
Until Levy.
I want to thank Levy for that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Levy provoked you so much that all the statements you were making to USAF and yourself did not matter anymore.
Nothing matters. No, I mean, the Levy thing is half serious. I just decided it's time to play chess again. I was playing a lot in Title Tuesday. My rating was okay. I was doing okay. And I haven't played chess in a while. I don't know if it was the right decision. I guess we'll find out this weekend.
It's awesome.
If I can have a good tournament here, then it was the right decision. I got to win a prize in one tournament. I can't just keep playing in tournaments not getting prizes.
Yeah, that's when you'll retire again.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Is chess improvement limited by age?
Yes. Next question. No.
never play F3. What's so bad about F3?
It's only white playing F3, and it's black playing F6. If black plays F3, that's good. If white plays F6, that's good. If I say never play F6, and I show a position like this, knight F3, F6, then everybody would agree, like, don't play F6, except Sam Sloan, who plays F6 in this position. So, but maybe that's why his rating isn't very high. Okay, and typically when you play F3 or F6, you're taking away a good square for your knight, and you're weakening your king's position. So typically you don't want to do that. And of course, in specific positions, often F3 and F6 are bad, and I could show those, but like this is a good example. If you saw two people playing in a chess club or in a pub, and you didn't know who they were, and this was the first move for each side, you wouldn't think very much of them. You would think they're just beginners and don't know how to play. And what's funny is one of the worst moves Fabiano Caruana ever made in the U.S. Championship, he was winning against Varakobian, and he played F6, Fabi, then he was dead lost, and he lost. So, and a lot of the top players know my crazy rules, right? Like Fabi knows never play F6. So when he plays F6 and he loses, then I really gave it to him. So, now, again, it's a chess rule. That means you break it like 40% of the time. Otherwise, chess is too easy. Yeah, when I say F3 and F6 are bad moves, I mean for white playing F3 and black playing F6. If black plays F3, that's fine. In fact, even on move 1, it's fine because you establish dominance. And F6 is also good for white. Also, a lot of people confuse my rules, and they say things like, oh, no, you moved your F pawn. Feingold wouldn't like that. That's F4. That's fine. You can play knight F3. Now I'm going to play F4 in the tournament this weekend.
Oh, they won't see it till after.
No, I'm not going to play it. Yeah, so if black plays F5 or white plays F4, that's fine. It's only F3 and F6, and it's only for the side that you're on. So, again, white playing F3, black playing F6. Never do that. And always play bishop F1.
Beautiful.
Oh, I remember that one. It always played bishop F8.
That's right.
And I guess a great opportunity to conclude that the best move, regardless, is 1d4, because that's your chessable course.
Yeah. In fact, my whole career, I played d4, and very serious, and I can't lose, and rating has to go up, get norms. And then since I've retired, and on the internet, I play e4 a lot because I never play it. And in the last tournament we had in Charlotte, I won 2 games in the tournament, and I played e4 on move 1 in both of them. So I want to start playing e4 and d4 because 95% of my games were d4 when I was competitive, and I'm like, I never get to play e4. I see a lot of e4 games, but I'm never part of them. So I don't necessarily do worse with e4. I just don't know it as well. So it would scare me when I was playing, my playing days. And I'm like, I don't know e4. I can't play e4. I know d4. And now I don't care as much because, what am I going to do? So now I play e4 just because it's fun to have a new kind of position.
Well, thank you, Ben. This was awesome. I think we got had some good conversation.
For everyone watching this, do not hesitate to check out Ben's chessable course on 1d4. In fact, I have studied my d4 repertoire on Ben's course. And of course, Ben has a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel, It's Ben and Karen. Ben and his wife Karen are streaming both chess and poker. So go give them a follow and a support there. And if you want to find Emily on Emily Plays Chess, you can do that very easily. And as far as for this channel, Dina Balinkaya, don't forget to put the like and subscribe if you want to get better at chess. Although you might not become a grandmaster.
Truth hurts.
I almost said it.